How are you, Eric?
Good afternoon, how are you?
Good. Can you explain the financing of the amnesty program? And forgive me if this question came up, I was in the back. But I'm trying to figure out that there's been a lot of discussion that this is a perceived one-shot in revenue. Well, first, can you confirm what the program will generate in revenue?
As you are well aware, this item was not proposed by the administration. This was an amendment proposed by the majority.
Yes, I do know.
So we have not performed any analysis on this item. Our budget did not include it. So we had suggested, had a proposed budget that included a public safety fee. NYFA has now issued a letter to both leaders stating that the inclusion of this will be rejected, and we'll have to deal with that as it should happen by this committee.
Okay, so let's just backtrack 1 second. So as you well know, the public safety fee was $105 as proposed by the administration.
Correct.
It is now being proposed at $55.
Yes.
The loss of that revenue is how much?
$36 million.
Okay. So not understanding that you have not had a chance to review it, I guess the question is more posed to the majority in regards to, does this proposal generate $36 million? That's the very proper question. But I guess it really begs the question of also, I don't know if legislative budget review. Maurice, have you had a chance to review?
I'm going to call Mr. Chalmers to the podium. All right, he can answer the questions that you're asking Mr. Norton.
Yes.
Okay, so I will call Mr. Chalmers to the podium. And he can answer those questions.
Mr. Norton, just a quick question. It came up a little bit earlier in regards to the penalty that the department is using. And as far as I know, the assessment department reports to the county executive, but it talked about the use of the penalty being 0.5 and not 0.75. Are you familiar with how that number was determined? Mr. Denyon had said that it was a discussion with the county attorney's office, higher than himself, but just try to get some answers.
Myself, nor anyone from OMB was involved in any of those discussions.
So I'm just curious then, because Ms. Denny had said that it was a discussion with the county attorney earlier. How could the county attorney have a discussion about something that's fiscal without yourself or Roseanne there?
I believe the discussion was to assist the majority in coming up with ways to different alternatives, so that's why it did not include the rest of the administration.
No, I understand, but wouldn't the finance arm of the administration be vital to providing the majority with the information of how much this generates and the methodology on 0.5 versus 0.75?
I think their staff has enough knowledge to figure that out without us.
Without you? Oh, okay. I guess the question we have to figure out is, and it's really pointed to the presiding officer, then why are we using that penalty number and not the other one? Well, thank you, Mr. Norton.
Okay.
I guess Mr. Chalmers.
Are we ready for Mr. Chalmers to come up?
Madam President Officer?
We're
I don't know
going
if
to
you
get
want.
you an answer.
No. Oh, you
You
get
can answer that one?
Okay.
Maurice Chalmers, budget review.
Maurice, a couple things. One, as you heard from Mr. Norton, his office has not looked at what this particular amnesty program will generate in revenue. It has been said and well documented that, of course, by NYFA, from going from 105 in public safety fee to $55, the county will lose $36 million.
Approximately 35.4, $36 million, yes.
Okay. So looking at this particular program, as I'm sure, based off your report, you had some time to look at, this program would generate how much revenue?
Well, the universe for the 3 survey years, 13, 14, and 15, we estimate to be approximately 70.4 million. For those 70.4 million for those 3 years.
Okay.
That's the universe, estimating that we have 100% participation. In addition to your point or what you were talking about, the data we got actually had a fine of 0.5% for 2013. So it was a more conservative number. We actually highlighted that there could be an additional opportunity once that is clarified of the 9.9 million that you're talking about. The 9.9 million will be above the 70.4 million.
I see. So you're saying a lot of interesting things, Maurice. I just want to make sure I can capture all of them. So the county universe, the most the county can collect, and that's assuming everything lines up perfectly for us, is roughly 70.4 million?
That's correct.
Now, I think Mr. Curry had mentioned before that the last time the county imposed some penalty to certain degrees, they were able to generate, I thought he had said a compliance of 82%?
Yes.
The number was in 2008. Have you looked at any of that information to determine what the county would actually?
What we got were property-specific information. Those are the properties that actually owe us money.
Okay.
So those are really specific. Those are I guess, the balance of the 82 and the 18% that did not comply.
Ah, okay. I understand. So, if we have the 70.4, and then we're looking at the 0.5, which, doing the math, that gives us the 35.4, roughly $36 million. Going forward to future years, how is this not a one-shot in revenue if we're dwindling down off of that 70 million? Are we expecting it to be replenished with more delinquent people to the same magnitude in the future?
We expect the majority of it to be a one-shot. There could be an aspect of it where some property owners may decide not to provide the information, and that portion of it could be recurring. But we have no way of really saying how much of it could be recurring.
So would 36 million recur?
No, probably not.
Would 20 million recur?
Again, without, you know, you actually.
I guess what I'm driving at is that is this more one shot than recurring?
Most of it will not be recurring revenue. What we highlighted also was a cost avoidance factor also. We actually pay a lot of money on tax rate, commercial tax rate, and we could have an opportunity for cost avoidance going forward. So that may not be a revenue item, but it could also be a cost avoidance.
Just following along this line of questioning, since basically this could be a one-shot deal, so that like the 36 million or $40 million.
Or 70.
Or 70, okay, could come in 2017. We could collect it, say, in 2017. So then as legislator Kevan Abrahams was saying that, then maybe in 2018, we may not have as many businesses that are not in compliance, so that we may not be looking at recouping $70 million or 36. But I just wanted, but you did indicate though that because more companies would be in compliance, we would have less grievances, and so that like say if we owed $80 million in tax certs out, which we have to pay back, that instead of that being $80 million, that could be reduced to say 15 million, and we save the $65 million, and that's reoccurring.
And that's the cost avoidance proponent of this local law.
Okay, all right, thank you very much.
But Denise, just to wrap up my point.
I just needed
No. And I agree with what is being said, but what I'm saying is you're taking a 3-year period of $70.4 million. I understand that you're going to have a higher compliance rate going forward. We get that. But unless the 70.4 represented 1 year, you're not going to be able to make that all up. It's 3 years. It's 3 years.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
Except you are correct, except that the hope is and the plan is that we won't have to. In other words, when we have a higher compliance, we have less of a need for refunds.
So we may not need that.
So
No,
to get the higher compliance, you're making up that much money, perhaps more on the other end. by not having to worry about the refund, so your budget is going to come in fine.
When you say your budget, are you saying the county budget or the budget that pertains to this item?
No, the county budget. In other words, you're not going to get this particular income next time, we hope, but on the other side, on the expense side of the ledger, you're going to be eliminating expense. So yes, the income side of the ledger goes down, but so does the expense side of the ledger, and if things work out well, you're doing the right thing. You're doing the smart thing that way.
I
Is that
understand.
fair, Maurice?
I think
that's fair, yeah.
I think if I'm understanding what you're saying, obviously, I agree with you that we'll have a more accurate assessment role to be able to, I just don't believe that through that efficiency, that we're gonna generate or have efficiencies that generate to the tune of $36 million, which it sounds like to me, that's what the number is starting in fiscal year 2017.
Well, except that when you also, by the way, we're not going to get 100% compliance or anything like it, just by the nature of things. So there will be some, regardless of whatever we don't collect now, we still have it going forward in the future. We can collect that. So at some point, you're right, that if in a perfect world, that money goes away. We can't project it that far into the future, I don't think, number one. And number two, as I said, we are reducing significantly the expense side of the ledger. And that is, I think, a good outcome, if you're reducing both sides. Yes, you're reducing the one side, but you're reducing the expense thing. By doing this year and getting that money, you're reducing your costs going forward.
The amnesty program as it stands alone, not trying to balance the budget, I think I agree with your sentence. That being said, when you're trying to balance the budget, which is, obviously billions of dollars, it seems to me, for the same concerns that NIFA has had, it runs into a very hazy matter where NIFA has indicated that they would reject this proposal if it tries to do that. I think if you tried to do this while keeping the budget balanced, I don't think we would be at a position where NIFA is threatening further action.
The problem with NIFA, if you'll forgive me, is that a lot of the things that they do are very hazy, and not necessarily based upon logic, and not necessarily based upon correct accounting and correct thinking. So that doesn't necessarily impress me all that much.
No, I look, I'm probably one of the few members outside of Rich, Norma, Dennis, that was here when NIFA was here from its origination. So I can tell you, I've seen it change and I've seen it morph and I've seen it do different things. But NIFA, one thing I do know, is that scary? The four of us are the only ones that are here? Oh, Vinny, sorry, Vinny. I always forget it. I know. But I will say, my point is that obviously they are here and we have to deal with them, regardless of whether we believe they are hazy or inconsistent, whatever that may be the case. We have to deal with them. And
we have to do the right thing.
I understand that, Howard, but if they have made a very strong point to myself, as well as to Madam Presiding Officer, as well as to the entire legislature, about their disagreement on this particular item. I just think if it stood alone and it wasn't trying to balance the budget, I don't think we would receive that letter. That's my point.
You're right, but we are an elected body, and we have the responsibility to make these decisions on behalf of our constituents, on behalf of the entire county. They are an unelected body. There's some, may I say, or maybe he's bold to say, as there might be some political influences. But I think that what we need to do is simply to adhere to sensible budgetary practices. And if NIFA comes out with some good ideas and good suggestions, that's great. We'll thank them and kiss them on both cheeks, so to speak. But that's not what I'm hearing.
Do you have any other questions for Mr. Chalmers? No? Mr. Chalmers? No? Legislator Richard Whitten, do you have a
Yes.
question for Mr.
Can
Chalmers?
I ask, no, but can I ask the county attorney to step forward again? If that's possible. Hi. I know there was a question of what happened, fines during the period of the TRO. Were they being accumulated during that time, or can you explain that to us?
I don't know how you calculate it, Tony. Did you give a grace period for those or not?
Just to reiterate, did the fines continue to accrue while the TRO was in effect?
During the TRO, people continued to file. That didn't stop us from receiving filings, even though at that time we didn't ask for them. As far as the penalty, if you didn't file at any period, whether there's a TRO in effect or not, you're considered non-compliant, so there would be a fine.
That seems to go against what the county attorney's office stated. Or okay, so okay, I understand that's the county attorney's position on it. The question, I guess, is do you expect that to be challenged because the TRO was in place?
Again, not wanting to speculate on that, but I'm not aware of any, Jerry, I'm not aware of any challenge on that basis.
Yeah, it has almost been mentioned to our council. Is there any, you have no indication of it?
I haven't received it. No.
Do you have any idea what that would add up to, should, especially the commercial properties?
I don't know. No, I don't know.
So the fact that, would you agree that it's still a possibility that that could happen?
Again, I don't want to speculate as to what might happen. I don't know.
Right. Would there be anything that would preclude the commercial properties owners from contesting those fees?
I'm not aware of anything that would keep them out of court, but I'm not aware of anything that would give them success either.
Right, so it's still another unknown factor, I suppose.
I wouldn't say there's a lot of risk in that. I mean, the law is the law. The TRO has been lifted.
So, but the question is, during the time of the DRO, were those fees legally imposed?
Yeah, yes. I mean, there's nothing, I'm not aware of anything that challenges that conclusion. They weren't collected during that time, of course, but once the TRO is lifted, it's lifted.
No, I have two other people here. I'll have one in the midst. Okay. Legislator McKenzie.
Just to be clear, there's no legal impediment to the county collecting these fines right now.
That's correct.
Okay, so the TRO is lifted, and the county can collect these fines, and there's nothing legally stopping them from doing so.
Correct.
Thank you.
Legislator Nicolello.
Yeah, I just have a couple of questions for Mr. Chalmers. Just want to touch base on with respect to the recurring aspects. Yeah, this was mentioned before, but we don't expect the amnesty to be 100% successful.
Probably not.
Right. So to the extent it's not successful, 13, 14, and 15, the county will still have the ability to go after those who have chosen not to accept the amnesty.
Correct.
So so when the amnesty ends, that will not be the end of the collection of 13, 14, 15.
No, that will not be the end.
Your office also looked at New York City, correct?
Yes, we did.
And you looked at the numbers that New York City has been collecting on an annual basis.
Yes, we did.
Before we do that, what's the rate, or the cooperation rate, I guess, if you want to call it that, of people actually providing the income and expenses compliance?
Actually, in regards to the fines, we found that approximately their success rate is approximately 47.3%.
Okay.
So out of what they bill, they collect approximately 47.3%.
But but the compliance rate in terms of businesses providing their income and expense statements is high.
It's in the mid-90s.
All right. So then the universe of the numbers that they're actually going after would be, what, 5%, 6%, or something of that nature?
Correct.
All right. And then, again, as you just mentioned, the amount that they're actually collecting from those, that 5 or 6% is only, as you said, 47%?
That is correct.
How much are they collecting each year?
We have the percent of the charges with me. I could probably get you exactly how much they collected. I could get those numbers for you and how much was actually collected.
How much is the charges?
It's 3%. And actually, you could go up to 3%, then 4%, and 5%, depending on how late you file.
Do we have any idea as to what they've been receiving in terms of these fines that are being collected in New York City?
I believe it's in the mid-20s, at 25 to 30. I would say probably mid-20s per year.
Okay. So I guess my point is that there is a recurring aspect to this. This is not just a generic one-shot such as we saw in past days where they'd sell property and you couldn't sell the property again.
You know, some business owners may make the business decision not to provide you that information because they don't want you to know of anything. We can't say how much of it will be recurring. There could be some aspect of it that is recurring, although not to the amount that we see for those past 3 years that is actually owed, but some aspect of it could be recurring.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Legislator Curran.
Thank you. So this is, I have a few points I want to make and a couple questions, so whoever is qualified to ask, please decide amongst yourselves. It does seem to me that this is not firm. It's shaky revenue, no matter how you slice it. We can project that we'll get half of the big universe, but we don't really know for sure. So that's a possibility that we have to keep in mind and really do have to come up with a contingency. Oh, that's okay. Have to come up with a contingency, and that's something that we'll be looking into if this doesn't materialize in the coming months, I should say. Also, I think something came up very, very interesting. To give it more teeth, I wonder if we can discuss not letting businesses file for a tax grievance if they don't file for the following year, if they don't file the income and expense report. Because why should, if they don't comply, why should we be looking to give them a break, or why should they even be thinking about getting a break? Exactly. That's when you were talking about doing it in New
I
York
think
City.
that there are people who on the side of that would agree that they should not be able to file a tax agreement.
Okay.
However, we're not too sure whether or not we can really impose that kind of, I guess,
You mean legally?
yeah,
Okay.
challenge to it, yeah. So we could,
Even though
our
the
legislator, our council is looking into that, but it's a possibility we may not legally be able to do it.
city? Okay.
So we're exploring that.
That's interesting, though. So even if the city can legally do it, there's a chance that we
The
might.
city could do a heck of a lot more than we can.
That's true.
They don't have a guarantee, is right.
That's true.
Yeah, they don't have to pay back anybody.
Now, I guess this is
Okay,
a
go
question.
ahead.
This
I
is
don't
a
mean to
question.
interrupt you. Go
No,
ahead.
that's quite all right. Thank you for that. This is a question I think it would be for Maurice Chalmers, or maybe our finance guys. I'm not sure, but I see this as possibly benefiting. No matter what happens with how much revenue we get for this year, because it is shaky and it is it looks like it's going to be mostly a one-shot. That it could benefit Class 1 property homeowners because it'll help solve the fundamental problem of base proportion. So as the economy gets better and businesses do better, they're getting more income, so their assessment generally, I know it's not case per case, but generally the assessment would be higher for businesses for Class 4, which could ease the burden on Class 1. Do you think that is realistic?
Well, not being an assessor, I would just probably guess that if you fix the assessment for Class 4 properties, then the base proportion would change accordingly. And this law, the information allows you to better assess Class 4 properties. So that could be a net benefit also of getting the information and properly assessing Class 4 properties.
Right, because we don't have all the information we need, as the gentleman was saying, to properly assess Class 4 properties. Now, this would give us more information, and with the economy improving, businesses doing better, could help a little bit the tax burden for property 1 taxpayers.
I would say
Class
yes.
1. Okay, that's interesting, thanks.
Then I have, Richie Go,
I'm right here too. And,
legislator Barnell.
and it was picked up in Rose.
Okay.
And Mr. Nicola, legislator Nicola.
Are you ready, legislator Barnell? Legislator Rhodes.
Thank you, Madam Presiding Officer. I know I have feedback. I fixed it? No. Thought I fixed it there for a second. Mr. Chalmers, I know the discussion came up with respect to whether we're basing our numerical assumptions on 0.5 or 0.75, and I believe you had stated that for the purpose of being more conservative, we use the 0.5 figure instead of the 0.75.
The 0.5 was definitely a more conservative approach based on the data that we got. So we were absolutely okay with it. If we find out that 0.75 should have been used, the opportunity becomes 9.9 million.
So in other words, the total universe that we're talking about as opposed to being 70.4, in theory could be 80.3.
Correct.
And I'm also correct in my understanding that we have the ability to capture, theoretically, 100% of that money through the amnesty program and through enforcement mechanisms.
That would be the entire universe, correct.
In other words, the amnesty program is proposed as 60 days. That's a voluntary compliance program. The estimate citywide is that compliance is about 47%, as you indicated. Correct?
That's a collection rate. So the city's collection, their success rate is about 47%.
However, the county does still have the ability under the law to actually reduce the outstanding debt to a judgment and then collect on the judgment theoretically to capture the remainder.
That is correct. And the city also, they actually gave us an example where for 2014, I believe they collected almost 6.5 or 6, I forget, 6.7 million. So the collection will continue.
Okay. So while the amnesty itself may be risky in terms of how many people wind up voluntarily complying, the ability to capture the either 70.4 million or 80.3 million, depending on the factor that you receive, is completely within our control. Correct?
I believe that is the case, yes.
Thank you.
I don't know where it is. It sounds like.
It's on my microphone. It's feedback. Sorry.
Okay.
Sounds like someone has an extra phone.
Okay. Any other comments or questions from the legislators? Legislator Carr.
So are we, since it's 70 million in the universe, and we're talking about half of that, is that because we're basing it on what the city had, it was about half complying? Is that what that's based on?
No, what we did is we gave a couple of scenarios. We said if we were to be 50%, if we have a success rate of approximately 50%, then we would collect, I believe it was 35.2 million.
Say that again?
If we had the same level of success as the city and we collected approximately 50% of what we billed, then we would get 35.2 million in 2017.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, any public comments regarding this item? Yes, Ms. McClure.
Hello. This isn't a topic I plan to speak about, but it's very much of interest. The way it reads is a local law to authorize a voluntary partial amnesty program for income-producing property owners. I don't understand, as someone who is not as involved on this topic as all of you are, why there is an amnesty possibility at all. It's not like a ticket amnesty where summonses are issued to people and you might not be able to contact them and you reach out to see if you could collect additional income. Any property in Nassau County is some location and entity that you should be able to identify. This should be a topic, like I mentioned before, that everybody on the legislature should be in unanimous agreement that if somebody is not in compliance in 2013 and 2014 and 2015, we'll go after them, seize their property, and put somebody else in the position that they will be responsible. If you have to pay taxes for 2013 or 2014 or 2015, you have